Greetings everyone, greetings. Today we're going to be discussing the release and cancellation of contract. This is a document you would use for when you're going to cancel the contract, the sales contract, an as-is contract, vacant land contract, a commercial contract. You could use this document to basically void out and cancel the contract so that the escrow deposit can be returned to whoever everyone's agreeing upon, and basically just release each other from liabilities and the brokerages of liabilities from the contract, and everyone goes their separate ways. Maybe someone couldn't get financing, or the buyer doesn't want to buy anymore, or after an inspection things didn't turn out well. You'd use this document to cancel the contract. So before we begin talking about it, real quickly, our company is Nizz Realty Inc. We're licensed in the state of Florida. The contracts we discuss, such as this one, is pertaining to the state of Florida. So at this time it's only covering the state of Florida. Maybe in the future we'll have other states we're licensed for, but for right now, the making of this video, this is for Florida. Information about our brokerage is in the description below. Feel free to contact if you have any questions about our company or need advice. With that being said, let's go ahead and get straight into the video and talk about the release and cancellation of contract. It's a simple one-page document. It's very easy to fill out, so we'll get straight into it. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to put the buyer's and seller's name here at the top. So let's just say the buyer is, say it's Billy Bob today. Keep it simple. The seller, we're going to say the name is John Doe. So that's all you do. Buyer, seller's name, very simple. The next thing is whatever contract it is. The majority of sales contract that I see and that our brokerage does is, for residential at least, is the as-is contract. We usually always use as-is contracts. Properties we list and so forth are 99% of the time being sold as-is. So you check mark the box that applies. Maybe it's a commercial contract, you check mark the commercial contract. Or if it's a vacant land contract, we do a lot of those too. You click the vacant land contract, whichever one this pertains to. For the purposes of this video and example, let's say it's an as-is contract. The effective date should be on your contract. So let's say the effective date was say April 1st of 2022. Whatever the effective date is on the contract, usually on like one of the first few pages in the as-is contract. I believe it's on page 1, might be on page 2. Pretty certain it's on page 1 where it says effective date, and you write the date there. That's all you put there. The next part is the address or the legal description. You could just say, just put the address there. It's usually how it's always done, the easiest way. Let's just put an address here. Sometimes if you're dealing with maybe a vacant lot, sometimes there's no street address, and the only way you could identify it is through a legal description. You'd put the legal description here. I know this is only 2 lines, so this is question I get asked sometimes is, how do I fit in the legal description? Well, what you could do is instead of this, we could just remove this right now. You could say like see like exhibit A, or something like that. See exhibit B, maybe, yeah, something like that, dated. You usually just leave it as a see exhibit A, and then you have like a separate document that you could draft in like Microsoft Word or something, and you could just usually put some type of header or the beginning of the document stating this pertains to the release and cancellation of contract for the contract dated on this date, the effective date. Then you could write the full legal description there. If it's, some legal descriptions are massive, so you could use like see exhibit A, and then you could have exhibit A, which is a separate document, state the legal description, and just have everyone like sign or initial that document and accompanying with this document. Usually you could do an e-signature and combine the files together. So keep that simple, just in case you're dealing with a big legal description for maybe a vacant lot or a property that does not have an actual address issued to it. For the purposes of this video, let's just say we have the address. Move on. The next part here is the brokerage names. So you'd put the, usually the listing agent's brokerage and the cooperating realtor's brokerage here. So, let's say we're the listing agent for this brokerage, Nizz Realty Inc. You put our brokerage name there. Let's say there's the next company here. We have our other brokerage, you could put that there. And you just list both of the brokerage's names there. So that liability is released from both companies. It's important to put your full company name there. And that's pretty much it there. It's very simple. The next part is the escrow funds, where the deposit's being returned to. In most situations, if you're just canceling the contract, maybe due to inspections, the buyer is going to walk away free from the contract. They're going to get their full escrow deposit back. So let's say the escrow was $5,000. So you'd say $5,000 to, who's the buyer? Billy Bob? Billy Bob. That's if Billy Bob's going to get the whole escrow back. Now, there's other instances where let's say there's like a dispute or something, and maybe Billy Bob was in some type of, let's say for example, Billy Bob, the buyer, was in some type of breach of the contract, and you know, John Doe, the seller, doesn't want to release the contract because Billy Bob maybe breached the contract. Maybe Billy Bob had 7 days to do an inspection and make a decision to move forward, and Billy Bob took 10 days, but now wants to back out of the contract due to inspections. Maybe Billy Bob found like termites or something, but it took him 10 days to figure out that he wants to back out, even though the inspection was set for 7. So John Doe feels that doesn't want to release him from the contract, or maybe John Doe wants to be compensated for Billy Bob, the buyer, breaching the contract. Some of the terms of the contract took 2 extra days over the inspection. So under such circumstances, what you could do is maybe negotiate that out of the $5,000 deposit, maybe the seller wants $2,000 of it. So maybe you could say something like $3,000 goes to Billy Bob and $2,000 goes to John Doe. Maybe you negotiate that with the parties involved, and John Doe says, you know what, I'll take $2,000 out of the escrow deposit if Billy Bob agrees to it for, breaching the contract, and then I'll release everything from the contract and let Billy Bob go to separate ways. So that's one example of what you could do with the escrow deposit, and have everyone sign this document to certify that, and basically be able to release the escrow funds as delineated right here in this particular document. So you could do that, or maybe, Billy Bob, the buyer, had 7 days to do an inspection and waited 25 days, and maybe something happened. The buyer can't buy the property no more, just has to completely back out of the contract. And let's say the escrow is $5,000. So let's say the buyer, which is Billy Bob here, just completely agrees and says, listen, just have the seller, let them have the entire escrow deposit. We have an emergency, and we can't continue forward with the contract. We're sorry we wasted the seller's time. We know we're in breach of the contract. Just, you could have the escrow deposit. In which case, you could just, just have the entire escrow deposit, let's say it was $5,000, be paid to the seller. In this case, it's John Doe. So you could use this document to do that. And really just split the escrow deposit or whatever the funds are accordingly. As long as it's agreed upon between all parties and everyone signs and dates this document, then it'll be distributed as explained and written here in this particular paragraph. So, sometimes breach of contract does happen. There is emergencies, but, there's still a breach of contract regardless if something came up. The seller might have wasted their time taking the property off the market. Now they lost 20 days, and maybe those other potential buyers, and the seller wants to be compensated in some way, or maybe it's the buyer. If the seller breached the contract and the buyer wants to, usually it's the buyer putting down the escrow deposit, but maybe you could also negotiate the seller will reimburse the buyer for maybe the appraisal they did or something like that. But this particular paragraph here, paragraph 3, is for the escrow funds. Usually it's for if the buyer has breached the contract, so that's what you would use that for. But you'd fill it out accordingly there. If you have any questions or a unique situation going on, you can feel free to reach out. Be happy to assist. Put it in the comments below and explain something to see what type of situation you go on. If you're one of our agents within our brokerage, definitely reach out and we'll advise you accordingly. But that's pretty much it. Just have the buyers and sellers sign and date this document. All the buyers and sellers. If there's 3 sellers, just put an extra signature down there and date it. Usually use e-sign. That's it. Pretty simple document, very easy, straight to the point, but there's a couple of things that, are helpful, hopefully, such as putting the Exhibit A here and using a separate document for a legal description and discussing about the escrow disbursement paragraph. So Hopefully it helps you. See you in the next video. Thank you.